My ex-wife wants my children to cry harder at her horrible husband's funeral, so I made her grieve one more time. My ex-wife and I share 2 children. Our daughter is 13 and our son is 11. She was remarried for 7 years and had 2 children with her late husband. He died a week ago. My kids were not close to the man. He was a hard ass, and the kids found him overly strict, so they didn't like being around him. He spoke to them like they were soldiers and was their commanding officer. That was how he talked to his kids, barking orders at them. Also, they were very strict about sitting and standing, posture. It was very tough on them regarding what extracurricular activities they wanted to do. He had his ideas of what kids should do, and my son especially wasn't interested in the sports aspect, and that was not what my ex's late husband liked to hear. He also didn't believe kids should be helped with homework beyond kindergarten and did not like how the kids would react to seeing me during exchanges. He thought kids should act civilized at all times. He disapproved of taking off running and jumping into my arms and said it to them. The relationship, at best, was strained, but they confided in me over the years that they hoped their mom would leave them. She loved the guy, though, and when he died last week, she was a mess. Our kids were with me when it happened, and she wanted to see them, so I brought them over. They comforted their mom, and she told them repeatedly it was okay to cry, it was okay to miss him, and that they were all going to miss him. The kids said nothing. She kept repeating it. I told her I thought the kids got it. When the kids saw their mom again, she was halfway through planning the funeral and asked if they would be able to do a reading or something for the funeral. The kids said they wouldn't be able to. She was with them for a while and then said that since they weren't crying much, maybe they could take a reading and see how they did. On the day, the kids told me about it when I spoke to them and asked if I could talk to their mom. I told my ex not to force the reading. The funeral day came. I showed up for my kids. They were hanging back with me often, and they told me their mom kept watching them, which I witnessed. For the funeral, I sat behind them since she wouldn't let them sit with me. She told us that all her husband's kids should be seated up front, and I didn't have the heart to tell her they weren't as kids on the day of her husband's funeral when she was such a mess. So I bit my tongue and supported my kids. It was after the service that everything went down. The kids came to sit in my car for a while, and we laughed about something. Ex came over and asked how they could be laughing when they had just buried their stepdad and why they showed no grief at all over the loss of the man who was part of their lives for 7 years. She said it was almost like they were glad he was gone. She told them they should have been looking way more somber after he passed. She told them if they didn't care, they needed help because her husband loved them. I stepped in and told her to lay off the kids. They were kids. She told me to stop interfering in how she parents our kids. My daughter ended up getting mad at her mom and told her she wasn't sad he was gone. He was in butt, and she had always hoped she would leave him. She stormed off, and my son followed. My ex was going crazy, and I yelled and told her to cut it out and stop trying to make our kids perform a grieving routine over her husband. I told her they were trying to support her and that she should be proud of them. She started yelling back at me about what an a-hole I was, so I walked away.